Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Betting Show. It's week one's finally here. We're all excited. We've been doing all the odds for the divisions. We've done all the props, but now it's down to the proper money. Now it's down to the competition between myself, Adam, and Sky of who can make people the most money. So this is going to be really interesting. We've already had a game play. The Detroit Lions took on the Kansas City Chiefs. Adam, did you get to watch any of it? Did you stay up like me and Sky? I know me and Sky stayed up for it. Adam?
No, I value sleep slightly more important than watching the Detroit Lions scrape past the Kansas City Chiefs. So no, I didn't stay up for it, but saw the highlights, and there wasn't many of them either. So yeah.
Sky, you stayed up for what was a close game, but not. I wouldn't say it was the most entertaining. Did you win any money on it? Did you have any bets on it?
I had bets on, but I didn't win. But you know, it's fine. It's week one. I wish I'd gone with my hunch of the Lions an hour before kickoff for our pool that we're all involved in. Obviously, the six of us, the franchise tag. But I saw that we all picked the Chiefs, so obviously that wasn't great. but betting wise, I think good win for the Lions, though. You know, and their defense looks strong, so that could bode well for future bets with the over-unders as well. I think a lot of people were expecting high-scoring games for the Lions, but it was closely fought, and I know there were mistakes offensively, but some good defense on show as well, I thought, especially for week one.
Yeah, I thought defense was definitely the takeaway from both sides on that one. Go on,
Adam. Can I just say I did wake up with 85 quid in my account.
Oh,
thanks to Mr. Montgomery. So
yeah, I mean, I wish I'd put my money where my mouth was and had a bit of an anytime bet on Rashee Rice, as I've been banging on about him all off season. And then he goes and gets the Chiefs' first touchdown. Wish I'd had a bit of a dab on that, because he was a scroll down on the list for touchdown scorers. So I was going to have him for first touchdown. I was like, nah, it's too far down. Maybe he's not going to be in the lineup that much. But hey, it is what it is. Right, let's get the odds up. Let's talk about why we're here. Let's have that level. Here we go. Adam, do you want to start us off? As it's usually you that talks us through the boring odds before we get onto Sky's ridiculous odds.
So we're going to do something a little bit different this year compared to what we did last year. Last year we went through all the games. It went on forever. All the shows were like over an hour, and everyone was probably falling asleep by the end of it. So we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to do the live games for what's on Sky. So the 6 p.m. game, which is 49ers Steelers, Dolphins Chargers, late in the, when's that, 9:25, isn't it? I think that one is. Sunday night football and Monday night football. We've then got our trebles that we're going to come out with, and also any other bets that we like the look of, which we can include all of Sky's crazy Sky Bet request a bet that he's come up with, which we've seen a couple of them already, and I can't wait to assassinate one of them. So the first one that we're going to look at is the 49ers at the Steelers. What are the odds for that? I can't see it. Help me out here.
They're right in front of you on the screen, Adam.
Yeah, I know, but I'm looking at my phone. It's tiny, mate.
I mean, before we talk about the odds on it, are you certain are you going 49ers win for this one? Should we talk about who we think might actually win the game first?
So I quite like the Steelers for this one. I quite like the upset. I think that the 49ers are not going to be quite as strong as what they were last year. I think the Steelers have got a good chance of getting this, certainly week one as well. I think that will help them out. Good time to play them, and so I quite like the look of the Steelers for this particular game.
Sky, you seem to be shaking your head a little bit there. Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, ever so slightly disagree. I think the Niners, I've spoke about, you know, they're a Super Bowl favorite. I know it's week one and anything can happen, but I like them to win. And I think it's mainly because I expect the defense to give Brock Purdy some easier drives with some turnovers. Not saying it's going to be a convincing win, because obviously going to Heinz Field's tough. But yeah, I'm quite confident the Niners are going to get a good road win.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the side when it comes to betting. Anyway, I'm leaning towards the side of putting my money on the Steelers. Obviously, with them being underdogs in this game. I don't think that's ever, never let Mike Tomlin be an underdog. That's when he's most dangerous. He's at home. I think that plays into his favour. And I think we're going to see, I think, a better Kenny Pickett this season. So I think they got some key players in some key places. And when TJ Watt's fit, they don't lose, do they? So I think there's probably some good money to be had betting on the Steelers as underdogs as well. Adam, do you want to talk us through what you've got with this?
Yeah, well, one other thing about it is I think it's going to be two strong defenses as well. So that always ends up with a close game. So, this is why I've got the Steelers plus 2.5. I think in a really tight game, just taking the extra points is probably helpful. So at 10-11, I really like the look of that. When it comes to touchdown scorers that I saw, I think that, like I say, it's going to be a tight game. There's not a great deal there, really, that I was particularly excited about. But we saw last year with Brock Purdy that he really did go for George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. They were the two that he seemed to gravitate towards the most. Quite a few sort of balls over the middle. So I do think, personally, I like the look of Kittle at 15-8. I know that he's had injury issues in the preseason, but he seems to be back fully fit and he practiced there. So I like the look of Kittle and I like the look of Brandon Ayuk at 5-2. I think they're the two guys that are worth looking at on the 49ers side. On the Steelers side, there isn't really anyone specifically that I am that desperate to be back in. The only one that you do kind of feel like it would kind of be a typical NFL thing to happen is that you've got Deontay Johnson, who didn't get a single touchdown last year, to suddenly come out in the first week and get a touchdown at 11-4. But I wouldn't be putting that much money on it for that. So, but yeah, Ayuk and Kittle for me are probably the two that I like the look of the most. But I think it's going to be a very tight game.
Sky, what odds do you like in this game? Where's your money at?
So I went with a bit of a crazy bet builder that I wanted to talk through some options and pick your brain on the respective things that I was thinking. So for Brock Purdy, I think there's 200 or more passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. I think people underestimate how, I know obviously I've said before in other shows that we've been on that, it's quarterback proof, this Shanahan system, but I think Brock Purdy has also proved that he is a good quarterback and can make the passes to the players that were spoken about there. I just saw that he had to log in, so we might not get the full the odds I wanted to go to when they add up. But yeah, I was looking at Purdy 200 or more passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and the Niners to be the first team to get to 20 points. I personally wouldn't go for an over or under in this game because I agree with what Adam said with the defenses. I don't know how high or low scoring it's going to be, but I would still expect, whether win or lose, the Niners to get 20 points in this game. I guess the obvious player outside of the players Adam spoke about is you could look at McCaffrey to get an anytime touchdown if you're doing a bet builder. He's also got an over 97.5 rushing and receiving yards total. I think with someone like Christian McCaffrey, all-purpose back, that's more than possible week in, week out for him to get that. And then Ayuk, I'm glad Adam mentioned him because he has an over 50.5 for rushing and receiving yards in a match. And I think, Shanahan can always dial things up. People like to think that Deebo Samuel is the only capable receiver on this roster who can do that. But Ayuk's talent, he's more than capable of, getting involved, not just in the passing game, but some trick plays there too. Also with Kenny Pickett, I don't know how you guys feel about this one, but with the Niners defense getting to him and him potentially needing to scramble, there's over 14.5 rushing yards for Pickett too, which could be worth throwing in because it throws up the odds a bit. So if anyone's tempted by that, you never know. Only takes one scramble, right?
What are you going for the Kenny Pickett one?
Over 14.5 rushing yards.
Okay. And do you know what the odds were on that?
Oh, so for all of the things I mentioned, including the Niners to win, come out at 60-1.
Oof. That's this is what we were talking about, Adam. This is the Sky odds. Adam's looking at those bets of the Steelers +3 at like 10 to 11. Sky's looking at 60 to 1.
I thought first show of the season, that's live. Why not 60 to 1? Let's go. It could happen.
That's why we've got you on here. That's what we want to hear. That's they're the things that I'm interested in. You've got my ears tingling. I'm listening.
I'll put it in the build. I'll send it to you later. So we've got.
I'm just not. I'd have to remove the 49ers win maybe out of that. Maybe edit it. Oh, I've done that before so many times. Just change one thing out of one of Adam's bets because I didn't like it, and then it's not one.
I even looked at Najee Harris had an over 63.5, and I think the only thing that put me off of that when I took it out is because Warren's had a lot of hype in the off season. And I completely agree with what Adam said. I don't think there's anyone on the Steelers roster. I think anyone can make a case for them winning this game because of Mike Tomlin, as you talked about earlier. But there's no players on this team where I'd be sitting there feeling comfortable to say this guy's going to get a touchdown or he's going to get this amount of yardage. I think it's more the defense making plays and giving them a chance of winning the game. Yeah,
if it was for me, for the odds, I'd be definitely looking at the odds on everything I can with Deontay Johnson. I think he's really underrated. If you listen to my the fantasy sit and startums, I had Deontay Johnson as one of my must starts, and I just think he's going to get the targets. We know that for sure. He got them last year. They were there. It was just the touchdowns he was missing. So if there's anything on receptions and yardage and things like that for Deontay Johnson, I'd definitely be trying to build him into a package for the odds. Adam, should we move on to the next game?
Yeah, so the Dolphins are at the Chargers for the Sunday evening game that we've got. The Chargers are 5 to 8 favourites to win. Dolphins 7 to 5. The over/unders at 51. So we're expecting a pretty high scoring game in this one. And the handicap is at +3 for the Dolphins. So Chargers favourite slightly. I mean, we would probably expect that given the fact that they're at home and the first game of the season. That's probably the reason it's gone. I was having a look at them. Both defenses last year were not great. Certainly not great against the pass and struggled a little bit against the run. They were kind of more middle to the back end against the run when it came to giving up touchdowns. I think personally, I've gone for the Chargers. It's just I think they're both very even teams. It really could go either way on this one, so it's not a particularly big positive towards the Chargers. But I just think, given the fact they're at home, they'll have the crowd on their side, might put them over the edge. But I would expect a high-scoring game in this one. Certainly a better watch than the previous one.
Yeah, I definitely tipped this game to be a high-scoring one. I think it's going to be an absolute shootout. I fully agree with you. I think I'm not 100% sure on Miami's run game, and I'm a little bit worried about Tua still health-wise in case he gets hit or anything. So that's why, again, I'm leaning towards the Chargers. I think they're just better all-round for this one to edge it, but it's definitely going to be a shootout. So I'd definitely be looking at that over 51 points. I think that's definitely where this game's going to be at as well. So, yeah, fully agree with you on that one, Adam. Sky, you looking along that as well?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really high scoring. Agree with you about the Dolphins run game. I think I've mentioned it so many times now that anyone who's watched any episodes probably bored of me hating on Miami. So I haven't looked to many of their players. But there were a couple of bet boosts that were suggested as well that just gave me some ideas. I think they were pretty reasonable. There was one at 11 to 2, which is both teams to score 15 plus points with Keenan Allen and Mostert to get a touchdown. Obviously, Mostert starting the season as RB1. They'll probably lose that over the course of the season. But I think in the first game, that's quite a solid bet to have. And Keenan Allen's obviously one of Herbert's go-tos. But yeah, I think the reason I've looked at the bet boost in this one, because I keep talking about how good this Chargers offense is going to be, but there's so many weapons. I wouldn't want to sit here and talk about yardage for multiple players, etc., because it might just be that Herbert focuses on whichever matchup works on the day. If it's Quentin Johnson might end up having a great game going up against the third corner of Miami or etc. So I've leaned towards that one. And there's also the 17-2 bet boost, which 350 yards is a lot, but if we talk about the points total that we've touched upon, then it's more than possible. I do think Herbert will get, 3 touchdowns, I think is fine. It's just, if it's high scoring to the point where the Chargers still have double-digit leads and Miami are chasing and there's a bit more of a run game, it could be that he's more around 290 to 325 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. But I think it's 17-2. That's still a good bet.
Yeah, I like the odds. Just a bit worried about the 3 touchdowns, just in case you do get any of those. Once you're in the red zone, if it is being handed off to the running back, that's where I'd worry. Adam, have you got any touchdown scorers you like in this one? Where's your money at with that?
Yeah, well, actually, the 11-2 appeals on the bet boost because I've got Raheem Mostert at 6-5 and Keenan Allen at 7-5. So, I think that Mostert is he is going to be the main guy in week 1. He'll get injured at some point during the season, but he will be fit for week 1. And so therefore, he's with Jeff Wilson out, he's going to be the main guy. For that, it's a 6-5 for him. As I said, Keenan Allen as well with the Chargers. I think the Chargers, you're going to see a team that passed the ball a lot anyway, but it's going to be a much higher tempo, I think, than what it was with Kellen Moore now as the OC there. So, yeah, like Keenan Allen at 7-5. And then another one, which I'm just surprises me that he's at 7-5. And I remember this last year, I think it was similar. Tyreek Hill at 7-5. If you can get Tyreek Hill at anything over evens, then you back him. And certainly against the defense, the Chargers, they finished 25th against giving up passing touchdowns last year. So I think because of that, I don't really feel like they've improved their defense that much that it's going to be such a massive difference. So, I think having someone like Tyreek Hill at that price, I'd be going for that. So that's the one that I really like in the whole game. But I like the over. I like Mostert and Allen, so the 11-2 bet boost definitely is worth looking at. And I really like Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I quite like the Gerald Everett odds there at 9-4. Also something that I brought up on the fantasy that in the playoffs last year, he was the go-to guy, the safety net with the most reception and most yards and the touchdown as well. So I think he's definitely going to be one that Herbert trusts and uses. Now he's been there for a few years now. So I like the 9-4 on Everett. Sky, is there anyone different you really like in there?
I think I touched upon Quinton Johnson before. Obviously, there's a lot of hype of him coming out of college, and obviously he's going to start as a third receiver on that Chargers offense. But like Adam said, with Kellen Moore, we saw the success he had in Dallas, and they attacked the middle a lot in that passing game. And I think we've seen enough of Quinton Johnson's ability in college that could be an area that exposes a lot of defenses. So, I mean, at 3-1 for a rookie in his first game, I know it's a bit of an unknown, but I think there's enough talent there in terms of the coordinator, Herbert, throwing in the ball and him being an unknown. I know people will say he's an unknown in terms of can you bet on him, but it's also unknown for the opposing defense as well. There's not tape on him yet. So I reckon at 3-1, if you threw him in, that could be quite a good option.
Yeah, definitely. Any more odds on this game before we move over to the next one?
Nope.
No.
Cool. Because the next one's a big one, isn't it?
Not to upset you in this one. With any
I'm probably going to go to you first for this one, Sky. As we always go to Adam first, and it's Cowboys against my Giants. So upset me early, and then Adam can make me a bit happier afterwards. Maybe.
I've looked at a very tame bet builder on this one. I know the Giants have improved a lot, but I just in the offense where there's so many new additions, I don't know who to focus on. I know people talk about Darren Waller, and I think rightly so, but I'm just on the side of a caution because of some health issues that he's had in the past. But I think later on in the season, if he stays healthy, obviously betting wise, he's going to become maybe a good person. But I've focused on the Cowboys. So there's Brandon Cooks to have over 45.5 receiving yards. I also like his touchdown odds as well for Cooks. So he's at any time 25. So with the treble that I've got, it brings it up to 25-4. But if you look at Cooks's touchdown scorer odds, he is at 21-10. And I mean, That's a second receiver on a strong offense. We all know what Brandon Cooks has done in, I think, he's an underrated receiver in terms of a guy who had a season at the Patriots, season at the Rams, a couple of years in Texans. He's always managed to adjust to where he's gone. I think he's a great addition for the Cowboys. So, yeah, with those two Cooks odds that I mentioned, as well as the Pollard, you'll notice a theme here. Any all-purpose running back, I'm liking to throw in the rushing and receiving total. Pollard has 91.5 rushing and receiving yards as his the one that we're looking at for the over, and those three together at 25-4. I'm not saying that anyone should throw 40 quid on it, but that's close to a nice £300 if you go for that treble.
Adam, do you want to bring us back down to earth with the sensible odds again, and talk us through who you think might win this one and where your money's at?
I think this could be quite a scrappy game, I have to say. I don't think there's going to be a lot of offense in it, to be honest. I think I quite like the under at 45.5. I'm a little surprised actually that it's a Sunday night football game, other than the fact that it's the Cowboys and they always want to show the Cowboys because of the audience. But I think it could be quite scrappy. I quite like Waller at 15-8. I think that from everything that's been put out, a lot of people are saying that he's just this complete step above anything else that's in that camp when it comes to receiving. That he's so far ahead that Daniel Jones is just, that's the first read every time if he's not going to Saquon sort of thing. So it does feel like Waller is going to be highly targeted. So at 15-8, I quite like him. I was looking at the Cowboys side of it. It's difficult. I think the price on Tony Pollard is just too low, personally, for me. I wouldn't be going for that. CeeDee Lamb, obviously, just because it's CeeDee Lamb, he just has the ability to score a touchdown in any game. So 11-8 is not a bad price. But the one that I did look at that was a bit of a bigger price is Rico Dowdle. So at 4-1 for McCarthy says he wants to run the ball and that's all he wants to do. Well, Tony Pollard can't do all of it. It's that simple. So the only other one really is Dowdle at 4-1, and then there's the midget, isn't there? That I can't remember his name. I've completely forgotten his name. Help me out here. What's his name? Juice Ford. Right. So that's basically it. So I think Dowdle at 4-1 just seems like, if they end up within like 5 yards of the line, he's a big-bodied running back. And I think you're gonna see him more involved than what I think a lot of people think. So because of that, I think he's worth a punt, even if it's just to see how much action he does see in this game.
I have some breaking news.
Go on, what do you say this guy, Missed you?
Darren Waller has been added to the injury report and is now listed as questionable because of his hamstring.
Well, that's the end of that bet then, isn't it?
I'm glad I mentioned the injury. Sorry.
I think he'll be fine. I think it's all speculation. He'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Plenty of time to recover.
Also with the rookies, Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson, I was torn on either of them at the any time because I didn't know who was going to step up. But Wan'Dale Robinson is actually listed as doubtful. So I don't know what Jalen Hyatt's anytime odds are, but if Robinson is out, because doubtful is obviously where we lean toward. 5-1, and I'm talking up the rookies, but I think all of the rookies, Johnson, Hyatt, Addison, there's a lot of guys who could break out this season, and I think if you can get a young talent at 5-1, if Wan'Dale's not playing, maybe we could see Hyatt take his snaps.
Yeah, potentially. Looked good preseason when he was out there, so yeah. I think that's a good shout. A lot of people have got this straight up as a Cowboys win. I'm not so sure. Funny enough,
no comment.
I think their O-line's aging. Dak's a pocket passer now. You're not seeing him move around. The Giants have only improved on their team, I believe, from what they had last year. And I like the O-line. I like the two tackles that we've got at the Giants. So I think Daniel Jones is going to have the time. I think if Waller plays, which we prior to this, I thought it was a go for. He's going to be used, and he's going to be used well. And we used all our backups at wide receiver last year after all three of our starters got injured, and they did fantastic. So it doesn't matter who's out there, one of them will be found. So yeah, I quite like the Giants here. So if you can get any money on them at the plus, then I think it's well worth keeping your money on them. Which is going to be it's a divisional rivalry game. It's going to be close, isn't it? It always is. So I don't think you can ever say one team's going to blow each other out, apart from when the Eagles played the Giants in the playoffs, which we kind of knew that would happen. But yeah, looking at the odds for touchdown scorers, 2-1. Daniel Jones getting in the end zone's always a favourite of mine. It's gone a lot shorter than what it was last year, but I do always like to put the quarterbacks in there when they're dual threat. So I think that's always good if you want to put it in a bet builder. It's a nice little lad. Should we have a look at the last game then?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bills are going to the Jets. First time in forever, apparently, that MetLife are hosting the two Sunday night football and Monday night football, which is a bit of a weird one, night after night. So Bills are 2.5-point favourites for this particular game. I think I can't back the Jets. You can't back them yet, surely. It's a bit early, and I think the Bills are probably winning. I kind of get the feeling this could be a bit of a shootout as well. I think that Bills defense isn't quite as strong as what it was, and the Jets, although they're well known to have a great defense, I think that you can score points against them, just not like 30 or something like that. So I think you could be looking at a relatively high score. So I quite like the over for it. But yeah, I think the Bills for me will just about sneak it. I think Josh Allen will just have enough experience in him just to get him over the line.
Sky, you in agreement with that?
I think it's going to be quite low scoring. I don't see a shootout, to be honest. I've probably seen like a 24-20 because I've liked the under in this one. I think it's at 45.5. And I think even 44.5 is it, because at 45.5 we've got 10-11. Then you've got evens at the 44.5. So I think you could throw that in. I mean, when I've done the bet builder that I've looked at for this one, the odds don't really change if you go up by a couple on the over under. So maybe if you're a bit worried about a field goal, swing it either way, you could go a bit higher. I really don't know who's going to win. I mean, in my picks, I've gone with the Jets, which I just think week one. I've talked about the Bills in general. I think they're going to do a reverse this season in terms of instead of starting hot and then going cold towards the end when it comes to Super Bowl, everyone thinks they're going to win. I think if Dalton Kincaid and James Cook can sort of establish themselves in this offense, they might go under the radar a bit and then get hot at the right time. That's why I've got James Cook as anytime touchdown scorer as well. I think he's got some good odds there because we know Singletary's now on the Texans. I know they had a few of the more veteran backs sort of in and around on the roster, but it seems like James Cook is going to get a lot more snaps this season. And I think, Josh Allen, they'll want to probably limit his rushing a lot more now that he's getting a bit older. So being able to check down and use a guy like James Cook who can do a lot when he's in space, I like his odds there. And also in terms of the props, I like Gabe Davis and Lazard's overs that they've got. So Gabe Davis is at 46.5 and Lazard's at 38.5. I know people will talk about Diggs and Garrett Wilson, but I think in a divisional game like this, you want to focus on the second receiver on a lot of rosters. They seem to step up when it's divisional games and teams are more familiar with each other.
Yeah, I've steered away from this game for betting. I think the only thing I will bet on in this game is touchdown scorers because I really, really can't call which way it's going to go and by how many. We've already got a split choice between the two of you guys. One thinks it's going to be a shootout. One thinks it's going to be close. I think that's the trouble with this game for me. I'm just so uncertain of what type of game it's going to be, what we're going to get from either of the teams because, the Bills didn't show up as well as what we thought they would last year for the whole season. And Jets is a whole new ball game this year with the pieces they brought in. So I'm only looking at touchdown scorers for this game. I'm a bit worried about this one. And comps.
Sorry, I don't see how low is Dalton Kincaid on that
Well,
first
you're getting to where that's where I was going with it.
Yeah, I read your mind.
Dalton Kincaid was the one I really liked. Again, going back to fantasy and things like that, I brought him up as a bit of a gamble this week because it's one of those players that there's not going to be loads of film on him. There's not going to be loads for people to check what he's going to do, how he's going to be played, where he's going to be used. And when you look at the depth chart of what the Bills have got at wide receiver, I'm not massively convinced past Diggs and Gabe Davis. I think, so at slot, there's a big open space. So I think if Dawson Knox is on the field and Dalton Kincaid's there as well, you're going to see Dalton Kincaid playing at tight end and slot receiver, I believe. So week 1, before people work it out, I'm probably putting some money on him at 3-1. So that's the one I really like. I'm seeing a lot of nods. So you guys agreeing with that?
Yeah. 18-1.
Yeah, I mean, out of what I've got as touchdown scorers, I think it's very difficult to get away from Garrett Wilson at 6-4. I think that's a fairly solid one. But the only other one I had was Dalton Kincaid at 3-1, just purely from what you said, and also I think it is that the idea is that he isn't going to play tight end, so to speak. He is going to be that slot receiver, and that's the idea. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I just think that he could potentially score. So, yeah, I like them too. The only other one that I did sort of think of is Damien Harris. I just think Damien Harris is going to be the big-bodied receiver, running back compared to James Cook. We saw it last night, and I think this is something that we're going to be seeing a bit more in the NFL now. You're not going to have just the one running back. They're going to have two, and these guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook, they're going to be used in the passing game more. I think David Montgomery's and Damien Harris's are going to be sort of like, if they're within like 5 yards, then I think they're going to be sent out there to just ram it home. So, yeah.
Yeah, me and Adam spoke about this earlier today when obviously I stayed up for the game last night. I thought Gibbs was the better of the running backs. I thought he was more explosive. Thought he did better with the ball on the snaps and carries that he had. Yet Montgomery was the one that was used for all the dirty work, all of that play in the middle of the field and towards the end zone. So I was looking at this as well, Adam, that we've seen Harris do this for the Patriots year on, year out, where all the dirty work's been done by him and then someone else has come in and maybe finished it off. So you could see Harris being used. And it's not a definite for certain that Cook is going to be out there. We've seen when they've had Singletary, Moss and Cook all on the roster. You never knew which one was going to be in at any one time. So we could be seeing something similar again. So I agree with you on the Harris look at that. Should we have a look at our trebles then? Should we get down to where we think we're winning the money? Who wants to go first?
I think you should go first.
Me? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this will be no surprise to Adam what the type of players I've got in here. Funny enough, there's some quarterbacks.
I love it.
So for this week, for my treble, I've gone for Tyler Lockett. That's going up against the Rams. I think the Rams secondaries might be one of the worst in the NFL this year. So he had great games last year, 2 big games last year against the Rams. So I think he can do it again. I think Gino's going to go off on one. So I've got Tyler Lockett in there at 11-8. I've got Justin Fields 11-8 as well. I think he's a safe bet at any point to be rushing in with what we saw from him last year. He only needs to get down towards that sort of red zone area, and I think we'll see him use his legs. And then the other one, I think I'm putting in there for this week because we don't exactly know what we're going to get from him. And like I said with Kincaid, no one's got full tape on him. I put Anthony Richardson in there against the Jags. Everyone always says, this game, Jags Colts, Colts are always the favorites, and then it doesn't always go to plan sometimes. But it's the other way around this time. Jags are the favorites, so I'm going for a bit of a role reverse, and Colts might get a bit more out of this game than is expected. There could be an upset in this game. You never know. And I think Anthony Richardson to run one in could be the safe money at 6-4. That gives me on a return of £70 and 50 pence off of a fiver. So that's what I'm going for in this one.
Come on in, isn't it? Do you want me to go?
Feel free.
Feel free. Well, the first one is kind of a boring one now because it's Tyler Lockett going up against the Rams. For all the reasons that you've just mentioned. So that's the first one. Secondly, I've already spoken about him, Tyreek Hill going up against the Chargers in a big game, high-scoring game, I reckon. And then in the same game as your third one, I've gone for Calvin Ridley against the Colts. I just think he's going to try and make up for lost time, and I can see that he's going to become the number one option for Lawrence very quickly. They all came out to just under 14 to 1.
Oh, that's big odds for Adam.
Bigger than mine.
Oh,
I'm shocked.
Thought we were going to get another 60 to 1 bet from Sky.
I'm trying to. I have a Seahawks player, but it's not Tyler Lockett.
Oh,
so don't worry. Are you ready? It is Zach Charbonnet.
Okay.
Because Kenneth Walker was added to the injury report last night.
Yep.
So I thought, he's already looked strong in terms of what I've seen of him in preseason anyway. A hard runner, seems pretty dynamic. So Charbonnet. I've then gone for Nick Chubb because all off season I've banged on about Kareem Hunt's gone, and I know I had Ford in fantasy as sort of the insurance when he got hurt. So I think they're going to live and die by Chubb this season. And in a divisional game, it's usually your best players that need to sort of come up trump. So I reckon Chubb. And then this is the one I was 50-50 on until I saw Sean Payton talking him up in a press conference early in the week. Javonte Williams. That's my other one. I know, I do agree. I think Adam's been one advocate for this. He's talked about P. Ryan a lot. And I think I'm slowly on board with. I think he's going to bring a lot of value to the Broncos offense. But I think there was some concern originally about easing Williams into the offense. I don't know if Peyton's just trying to pull some smoke screens, but he was talking him up about how he's ready to sort of unleash him, and maybe week one's the best time to do that. So they've gone for 3 running backs, playing it safe in week one, and that come out just under 12 to 1.
Wow. So Sky's role reversal here. Sky's got, well, we knew I was going to be the middle odds, but Sky's got the shortest odds. I've got the middle odds, and Adam's got the highest odds. Mine was 13 to 1, by the way. Just over 13 to 1. Yeah, so the bets are in. Mine and Adam have got the same player, so that's interesting. Maybe quids in early doors on here. Sky, have you got some bizarre ones for us? I know we briefly talked about it. Well, let's finish with some of your crazy ones that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so I know I'd spoke. I know Adam mentioned earlier about Sky Bet, etc. I did have a look at their requested bets, and maybe it's because it's the start of the season, but there's not many variants in terms of receptions for players, etc. Maybe because the stats are not out yet. We haven't had a couple of weeks, and people are waiting for some help in that regard in terms of your crazy 80 to 1s, etc. But there are some particular games where there are some quarterback odds in terms of the starters getting over respective passing yardage. I'm trying to think where we'll start with the Packers and the Bears, because there is Justin Fields and Jordan Love, 275 plus passing yards each, a 40 to 1. And if you're feeling extra crazy, 300 yards for both, 150 to 1. You never know. Yeah, they've both got young receiving core. Divisional shootout.
I can see maybe Jones getting some yards. I'm not sure on Love. I'm not sure what we can get from Love. Adam?
No idea. This is the problem. We don't really know. The only thing I would say about that, and obviously it wasn't for the whole season because it was a bit half and half, wasn't it, in Chicago? It kind of felt like they let him do what he wanted to do, and it worked in the second half of the season. The passing yards per game last year for Chicago was 130.5. Now, even if a miracle has happened and Justin Fields is suddenly going to double that, he's still short of what you need for that.
Is this the one you were waiting to grill me over?
Yeah, this was the one.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm shocked of all the ones that was the one.
Yeah.
Well, that means it's only up from here, and we've got Well, we'll go to what Andrew
I
said.
didn't look at the others. I was so disgusted by that one. I didn't even.
I'm scared to even say 325, but 325 plus passing yards for Prescott and Jones is 80-1.
Yeah, I'm not in on that one. I'm not sure Jones will get the yardage. Maybe Dak might, but it's Jones I'm worried about. We haven't seen him really air the ball downfield loads. He tends to like.
I do think that would be higher, to be honest. Now that I think about it in reflection, and then the last one. Well, no, actually there are two that are also at 325, which would be passing yards each, which I'm interested in. He's got Stafford and Geno Smith, but I think I was torn between. There's no Cooper Kupp. Is it just going to be how bad are these? Well, the Rams defense is not great, other than Aaron Donald. So
Tyler Higbee can't run that quick. So
heavy dose of Tyler Higbee. I think you're going to see 10 plus receptions from Tyler Higbee. So if you want to put some money somewhere for someone on the Rams, get it on Higbee.
Maybe the better one then is the Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson one. For that yardage that I mentioned, that is only 25-1, which speaks straight away to it's got a lot more chance than some of these other quarterbacks I've touched upon. But are we going to? I guess the only question mark on that is everyone saying what Deshaun Watson are we going to see? Hopefully, one that we saw before all the drama, and he gets back to the level that we know he can. But he obviously was a bit inconsistent when he took over as a starter last year.
I mean, I think you've
talked myself out of it.
You've dug yourself a little hole with telling us that there's going to be a heavy dosage of Nick Chubb in this game.
Check downs. Anytime touchdown, that I put Chubb in is going to be a receiving touchdown. Obviously, an 80-yard one is just going to on a screenplay.
I know they did say it was going to be used a bit more in the passing game, but I think there might be a heavy dose of Nick Chubb running straight at people. But Joe Burrow, I think definitely you could probably put a tick in that one. I think we'll see him throw the ball all over the show. Really liked their whole depth chart of their wide receivers. I like 6 of their wide receivers. So, you're just going to be throwing it all over the shop. So that could be interesting. Yeah. You've got another one as well, haven't you, Sky?
With this one, I'm shocked that it's 25-1, and I had to put it in there just because it's 2 unknown commodities at quarterback. So we've got Bryce Young and Ridder, 275 plus yards, at only 25-1. But
no,
is that because of all the weapons the Falcons have got, and is that because whoever's at Sky Bet, thinks that Bryce Young's the next best thing, the next who knows?
Well, Arthur Smith just wants to run the ball, so that's the end of that.
This is why it's the crazy part, the end. Anything can happen or not happen. But 150-1, if that comes in, I'm going to say I told you so on the Jordan Love one and Fields. Love.
Just in case, I should probably put a pound on it, just in case. Because we will look stupid if that does come in. But, if it doesn't, I think, Sky, you should give me my pound back.
Of all the ones obviously the other ones are more if you're confident in a player or in a matchup in terms of it being a shootout, then I would say go for that. The Jordan Love, you just have to throw it in. You never know. Any given Sunday, we spoke about unknowns on the tape. I think the Packers receiving core is underrated is probably not the right word, but there's obviously a lot of hype around Christian Watson. There's 2 young tight ends. There's Romeo Dobbs. Who knows? DJ Moore's on the Bears now. There's some good weapons there. Maybe we're going to get an exciting NFC North matchup, and Adam is going to love it.
Well, we only need one of these bets to come in, and then everybody will be flooding and watching the whole show till we get to Sky's crazy bit at the end. So the watch hours are going to fly up this season if one of them comes in. Well, that's all we've got time for, guys. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for going through the odds. I'm absolutely buzzing for the start of the season. I was well excited, and like I said, stayed up last night, and I'm even more excited for a bit of red zone on Sunday. So best of luck to everyone's teams. Until then, goodbye.